discussing his book, Future Hit DNA. It is the #1 songwriting book currently available on Amazon. He is what we let me just give the formal introduction. Today, he's the Senior VP of Music Strategy at CMT, both for the website and the television station. Former VP of Music Programming at Yahoo Music. And in that time, he's certainly discovered a few things from a data point of view on how a song becomes a hit. And what led him to write the book, I understand, in our discussion backstage, was that he was tired of hearing negativity about the music business in his time at Yahoo. And he started to look at some research and the elements that make a song a hit today and on into the future. So for engineers, producers, songwriters in the crowd, it's certainly appropriate. And Jay, I will let you start off.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thanks. How's everybody doing today? Yeah, I think one of the things I found is that digital consumption has radically changed the way people discover music. And the funny part to me is that up until very, very recently, most people are still constructing songs as if it's made for what record companies have really wanted, which was made for radio. And that paradigm doesn't work any longer. And a lot of why I wrote the book was really to do that, to give everybody like yourselves armed with the tools as to what does the future look like, what is the new music paradigm. And there's a lot of tenets. The biggest one that I think is really important is no matter what you do, you have 7 seconds to impress the listener. I'd love to sit here and really give you a lot of talk about how the art of the song is really going to engage people and drag people in. But the reality is, you have 7 seconds, and this isn't coming from me just randomly pulling this out of the air. It's coming from seeing a lot of data. Started seeing it at Yahoo way back in 2003, and have seen it on several websites today. That when a person goes to a song to actually listen to that song, whether they do it explicitly or implicitly, they are making their decision on whether they like their song within 10 seconds. And half of the people who are going to listen to a song actually will have a high likelihood of leaving that song within those first 10 seconds. The interesting thing, of course, is that the paradigm used to be that people would stumble upon songs, whether it was radio or whether it was television, that you'd have somebody flipping through channels and eventually that they would discover a song around a hook or some other element of the song and then get engaged, and then eventually they'd like the song enough that they'd want to purchase it or engage in that song or artist. That paradigm rarely exists nowadays because it's all happening online. And when you look at the online consumption patterns, there's one thing that remains consistent, because if you're listening to a song via stream on an artist's website, on an artist's MySpace page or a Facebook page, on YouTube, whether you're downloading the song, whether it's legally or illegally, doesn't really matter. The one thing remains the same, which is that everybody is actually discovering music at the exact same point in the song, and that point is the very beginning of the song. So one of the things that's really crucial right now is you have those, not just any 10 seconds, you have the first 10 seconds of the song in which to actually engage the audience. One of the things that I go in detail on in my book is when I started finding these theories, I really wanted to say, okay, these are good things that are happening today, but has this actually happened in the past? And one of the things I found is that when it comes to introductions of songs, technology has actually had a role throughout the entire pop era of how long an introduction was very dependent on the technologies. For example, you go back to the beginning of the pop era in the mid to late 1950s, and the DJ existed in his booth with one turntable, and if they were lucky, a primitive mixer. If they were unlucky, they'd have a switcher. If anybody wants to go online and hear something funny, just go listen to some old Alan Freed tapes online, and you'll just hear Alan Freed singing along because he can't pot down his own mic. He doesn't have anything. So one of the things that the DJ had to do is because they only had one turntable and no pot, was that when the song was done, they're giving all their banter, blah, 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 while right over here they're trying to take off the record and cue up the next record. Well, if they had long introductions, then the flow is not going to work the same as opposed to a song that goes right into it. Hence, you have a lot of those oldie songs from the 1950s have short introductions of around 6 to 10 seconds. if they don't start right away, like a song like Rock Around the Clock. As technology grew and there was a lot more freedom, so did the length of introductions, where it actually peaked out in the late 80s and early 90s. There's actually some interesting studies I found in the 90s where Mariah Carey, this is actually an interesting story, Mariah Carey has the longest introductions to her #1 pop songs, more than any other artist. She has intros that last about 20 seconds. Sometimes they've gone as long as 40 seconds. She actually, I can't remember the name of the song, but one of her songs has the second longest introduction of any song, a #1 song in the pop era. And I started digging in and saying, well, why does that happen? Well, two things happened coinciding with Mariah Carey's rise to fame. One of which was the rise of Selector. Again, a technology, a computer software, choosing songs on the radio station to play at specific times. What also happened? One of the things that happened was you had radio consolidation, which I think we're all familiar with. And part of radio consolidation meant that they also started selling the DJ time. Now, if they're going to sell the DJ time, that means that they had to have time to go and talk about their local car dealer. Well, which song has more time to talk about the car dealer? The Joe Blow song with an intro that's a standard 13 or 14 seconds? Or Mariah Carey, whose intro was 35 seconds? So you go and the computer is automatically going to select that song a little bit more often. So what happens is, if, let's say, Mariah's in heavy rotation and that's going to be 45 to 50 spins a week, Mariah's song will play the 50 times, and the other guy's song plays 45 times. Completely invisible, because to the record label, hey, they're both in heavy, this is great. But Mariah has a slight edge. Add to that fact that you had in the consolidation process all of these programmers who are programming dozens of stations owned by one company who are controlling everything, and all of a sudden those 5 extra plays per station times 100 stations, now all of a sudden you've got the difference between number 21 and number 19 on the chart, and all of a sudden Mariah Carey's song looks hotter, while your song that didn't have that long introduction seems like it's not quite performing as well. So technology ends up having this inadvertent role. Believe me, I've talked to a lot of her producers and songwriters. Mariah and the people around her did not construct the songs with this in mind or even this knowledge. They certainly did notice, though, that longer introductions worked for her, which is why they repeated that within her songs. So, but my point is that the technology has always had a role in this stuff when it comes to the introduction. So now you bring it back to where we're at today and moving forward. The amazing thing that I found, and I'm one of those anal retentive guys that did study every single #1 pop song from 1955 to the present. I know way too more about the ins and outs of them. One of the things that I discovered is that once you hit the year 2000, the average length of an introduction to a #1 pop song plummeted from about 15 seconds to 8. And that neatly coincided with the rise of the internet era. The reality is that in the past few years, the most successful songs have had shorter introductions. If you look at the top 25 selling downloads so far, well, I shouldn't say it's a little bit old, from the first half of this year, from January through June, the average introduction length for the top 25 songs was 6 seconds. And when you actually get it out to the top 50, it's about 7.4 seconds, I believe, is the number. So the top 50 songs, the top 50 selling songs, the average intro length is 7.4 seconds. Now this is also important because those top 50 songs comprise 1/3 of all new download song purchases this year. 1 out of every 3 song purchases comes from that top 50. So a lot of what I've been seeing has been this, is that all this, and this is coming back to that discovery process, because if somebody goes to a song and it has a longer introduction, it doesn't matter that the chorus is great, it doesn't matter that the singer is absolutely wonderful. If that's a standard 15, 16 second intro and they don't hear it, half of your potential audience is gone, and the data backs this up.
Have you found any happy accidents in there that go against the data?
There's plenty. There's certainly some. Probably the most biggest example of recent years is Owl City, where that has a 22-second introduction and was enormously successful. But for the most part, you know, time and time again, it's gonna fall into that pattern. I mean, there's always going to be exceptions to the rule.
Now, and I did inform Jay who the crowd was out here that loves a good chorus, loves a good verse, loves a good intro,
Yep.
and cares about the quality of a song, certainly. So please feel free to challenge him at any point. He's used to being challenged, so you can come up and ask questions about future delivery and such. Jay, now it's interesting. Chapter 1, I see impact the listener in the first 7 seconds. Chapter 2, lengthen the song.
Yeah.
Can you address that, please?
Well, one of the things that I found is when you're looking at the competition that's out there right now, the ease in which anybody can be able to create music and deliver that music online has now made it to the point that people have way too much discovery. There's way too many choices. Here's a staggering statistic. If you wanted to listen to every single song that was released every single week, and all you did was listen to music 24/7 without any breaks whatsoever, it is physically possible for you to only hear 5% of what music is released in every single week. And that's presuming you're only going to listen to it once and never listen to it again. And then the next week it's another 5%, and then so on and so on and so on. So one of the difficult things is, with all of that choice, how exactly do you cut through the clutter? One of the things that I advocate very strongly is lengthening the songs, and there's 2 reasons for it. The first reason is because you want to own the listening experience. If you get somebody past those first 7 seconds to say, hey, I like this song, then there is an extremely high likelihood they are going to stay through to the entire song. So most people are making their choice to say, I don't want to try this song out in those first 10 seconds. And once you get past that point, then you are going to get people who are going to leave, but you have a much higher likelihood that they are going to be there for the entire song. So presuming that, what you want to do is you want to own the listening experience. You want to dominate that equation. You don't want to have the opportunity for somebody to go and listen to another song that could, because right now in terms of the economy, you make a little bit of money from streaming experiences like YouTube and MySpace, but in reality you're obviously making the money from purchasing and then hopefully getting somebody into the artist so that they go to concerts and buy albums, etc. But to do that, you actually have to be sticky in that person's mind. And any opportunity that they can go and hear something else that will cause them to forget about the song you made and the song that you created is an opportunity you don't want to have to give them. So if you actually are able to lengthen a song, and I'm not talking about taking a 3.5-minute pop song and making it some 7-minute epic. We all know that's foolish. But if you're talking about making a song that's 4 minutes and trying to figure out how I can neatly extend it to 4.5 minutes, that's actually a little bit meaningful because from a math percentage, you've just extended the song by 8%. And if somebody happens to listen to your one particular artist, and let's presume that they only have an hour in their house to listen to music because they're going to go out, they're going to school, they're going to dinner, they're going for a date, doesn't really matter. If they only have an hour, you can, in effect, help control how many songs they're going to listen to within that hour. And if they are spending more time on your song, then there's a higher likelihood they are not getting to the competition song. And it's important for you to keep the competition at bay because there's so much of it. The more time spent on your song, the more you get a positive attribution. Now, here's the other part. The reason why you want a longer song is because it's cheaper for the companies who are streaming your songs. Now, the way that the statute works right now through the Digital Millennium Copyright Act is that a radio station will use Pandora as an example. Pandora has to go and pay a statutory rate per song played. And that means that it doesn't matter if the song is 2 minutes long or the song is 8 minutes long. They are paying the same exact rate in either scenario. So if you're Pandora and you're trying to manage a business, would you rather play Stairway to Heaven, or would you rather play 3 unknown punk rock songs that are 2.5 minutes in length? You know Stairway to Heaven's a hit, and it's going to cost you 1/3 in terms of the time spent with your company than it would on these unknown punk rock songs. And I've actually seen it in action. Pandora recently started doing pre-programmed stations based on music formats. And they have conveniently not included stations like oldies, stations like punk rock. These stations aren't existed in the choices that they give you because those songs are short. But what stations are they pushing? New age, world music, dance music. They were even pushing on the R&B side, rather than just pushing, here's today's R&B hits. They were pushing R&B and old school something. I can't remember what they called it. But the idea there is that they're mixing in your standard 4-minute contemporary R&B pop song with the 7-minute R&B jams from the early 80s, thereby making that station cheaper for them. So you can actually go and play into that by basically saying, all right, well, if I can go and make a longer song, inevitably I am making that song more cost effective for these companies, and therefore I can be guaranteeing that hopefully they will actually prefer my song over somebody else's song, and then that would mean more of those royalty pies will be coming in your direction. Now, admittedly, right now it is not huge amounts of money, but if you look at the trajectory of the way Pandora has grown, the way that YouTube continues to grow, and the way that we all know that the consumption patterns just continually are more and more, especially as all of these services are now offering listening on your mobile phone, listening through your TV. Don't be mistaken, Apple TV making their box device go to $99, and the ability to listen to Pandora and YouTube through Apple TV is going to drive up the numbers that you can make from royalties there significantly. So the more that you can actually control that experience and make yourself more cost effective for these companies, and at the same time keeping your competition blocked out, well, all of a sudden taking an extra couple of hours to figure out, is it possible for me to make this song lengthened by 20 to 30 seconds without harming the integrity of the song? All of a sudden, that actually becomes a worthwhile exercise.
Do all streaming services have the same deal? I was talking with a company, Live 365, out in the Bay Area, and a little jealous of Pandora. It says they have a sweetheart deal, even. Do they all play fair?
Do they all play fair?
They
all play a little bit differently, but they all consistently play on a per-stream basis. Now, I think at some point in the next 5 years, this loophole is going to close, and they're going to pay based on time spent within a particular song. But again, if you lengthen the song, then, if that means that I'm going to get paid more on a 4.5-minute song versus a 4-minute song, you still win.
Yeah, make it longer. What about multiple versions? I also noticed this. I mean, are you talking about what we had yesterday, Nathan Chapman doing the country remix of Train? What are you referring to?
What I'm referring to is that when you get to the discovery process, one of the interesting tenets right now is getting somebody to discover your song is actually easier than ever, because you don't have to have somebody wait to purchase something off of a whim or somebody's word of mouth. You don't have to wait for somebody to listen to a radio station and hope that the radio station programmer added you, then hope that they added you in an airplay that's not between midnight and 6 a.m. or stuck on the locals only show. You don't have to wait for that anymore. You tell somebody, hey, I want you to listen to this song. You click the link. You're listening to the song. It happens super fast. But again, going back to all of that competition that's out there, most people are very much into a place where they are making a judgment about the song on one listen, and for the most part, not listening to that song again. Because I listened to it once, and then I can go to a cocktail party, and I can talk about that song. Yeah, that song's okay. Oh, it's great. I love the playing. Oh, it's not this or that. People can be able to talk about it based off of one listen. And the problem is, none of us in this room make any money off of one listen except the company that's streaming you. We all know this. The only way to make money is to actually get multiple listens on a streaming service, or to get to a point where those multiple listens actually translate into a sale. Because one thing has not changed, and that is it still takes 5 to 7 listens for a person to actually adopt a song into something that they can then sing for you, into something that makes it that they know that they really like it, into something that they're probably going to purchase. So one of the things that I advocate is, if that's the case, what you need to do is you need to make multiple versions of the song. The reason why is because when they've heard version 1, then they go and say, okay, I've heard it. And if they don't fall instantly in love with it and they just like it, then they're not going to listen again. But if all of a sudden they liked it enough that 3 weeks later, here is the acoustic version, or here is the extended version, or here is the, whatever version, the more rock version. Then there's a potential reason for them to give it another shot because here's another version of it. A great example recently, and it's not quite with versions, but it's actually with video, is with the CeeLo song. How many people here have heard the most recent CeeLo song by a show of hands? See, and the amazing thing, by the way, is there's a ton of people out there who have been saying that CeeLo is the hit of the summer, and I didn't even see 15% of the room raise their hand. CeeLo Green, who's a R&B/rap artist from Atlanta for the last 15 years, wrote a song with a very, very vague title. It's called Fuck You. And the song is actually, if you listen to the song, it actually is constructed in a way very much like the future hit stuff that I'm talking now. Short intro, a lot of repetition, all these kind of things, and has a very catchy lyric. And I can't remember the lyric, but believe me, he says fuck you in the first 15 seconds. So, but one of the things that he did is that the first video that came out for the song just had the lyrics on the screen. They didn't have anything else, just the lyrics flying at you as the song played. 2 weeks later, he released the actual video. So what happens is that somebody can go and at first glance listen to the song once and get the joke and get the humor in it and say, hey, this is good and this is fun, talk about it with their friends, as a lot of people have done in the last month since it's come out, but there's no reason for them to go and get it again. But 2 weeks later, he comes out with an actual video, and everybody goes and says, well, I heard the song before, but geez, I got to see what his actual visual interpretation is going to be. You've now just snuck in that second listen, and once you get to that second listen, now you actually, again, like the 10 seconds, you've crossed over that threshold that it leads to a highly increased likelihood that they're going to listen to it over and over and purchase the song. And as a result, this song, with 0 radio play, sold 100,000 downloads in 2.5 weeks.
Not bad. With a lyric, could that have been played on radio?
No.
Can't be played on radio.
But if anything, I mean, I think going to what I think everybody always has been asking a lot, which is, do I need a label? My answer is always depends. CeeLo does have the benefit of a major label. He's on Warner Brothers. But the label itself didn't propel the song to 100,000 downloads. I mean, it did that on its own. But there's also another song recently. There's a song called Bed Intruder, which I don't know. Has anybody heard Bed Intruder? Even less people. Here's a song, for those of you that don't know the story, there's a group of comics called Auto Tune the News, which you guys would find really funny. But basically they take news clips and then they go and they edit the news clips in a way that makes it into a song, and then they put auto-tune on the person's voice to make it an actual song. If you go online, they're hysterical. And they've been growing a little bit of traction kind of as a comedy group over the last year and a half. Well, about 7 weeks ago, it's actually, the story itself is a tragic story because a man broke into this woman's apartment in Alabama and attempted to rape her, and she fended him off. And the news organization comes and does the story, and her brother comes out and basically really flamboyantly and outlandishly starts basically spouting off all this stuff like, we know who you are, you better not come around here, we know where you're hiding, you can't come breaking into our houses, blah, 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 blah. Well, these guys saw this and did this and turned it into a song. And immediately the song became a viral sensation. And again, without the benefit of a record label, this actually became the first viral video to actually chart on the Billboard Hot 100 with no radio airplay. And the song has, in 6 weeks, sold 150,000 downloads. And by the way, for those of you who are wondering, they did contact the guy in the news report, this guy Antoine Dodson, and he has 50% of the publishing. So he did actually write the lyrics. So they did a good thing there.
Now you do call it a formula of certain things. Do you want to walk through a little bit of some of the other ideas you have that sort of propel?
Sure. I think if anything, what I found, and this is again all through data online, is that people really, it's not necessarily much different than what you're accustomed to in making songs. People basically have 3 points that they're likely going to tune out of a song, and that's the beginning, middle, and end. not really too hard. Beginning we've already discussed. The middle, we found that a lot of people will tune out about the 2-minute mark, in actuality right after the second chorus. There's a point in the song where people, and I call it the mixtape mentality, because especially in the pop world, a lot of kids have grown up listening to mixtapes where they've only hear about 1.5 to 2 minutes of the song. And so they get to a point where they, when they hit the end of the second chorus, if all they hear is more of the same, they instinctively say, oh, I've already heard this whole song, let me go somewhere else, and they leave the song. So to me, it's extremely important at that element of, at that particular moment in the song, that you have to change something up in the production to make sure somebody stays tuned in. And that can be anything from a key change to a dropout. A lot of people I know who I've talked to on the book really favor that to be a time where you just do a lot of dynamic dropout and just drop out most of the instruments, you know, guest vocals. You just got to do something there, because if you don't, you just keep the song going in the same progression that it is, nobody's going to stay tuned in. The last part is the end of the song, and the reason why the end of the song is important is because, again, for that second listen. One of the things that I like to advocate that a lot of people have done is, you know, in the standard song structure, you want to actually resolve your chords at the end of the song. You want people to feel good that they've come to the end of the song and go, oh, I know that this is the end and I'm happy. That's all well and good when you have a captive environment with radio and very limited choices. But the reality is that right now, the last thing you want somebody to do is to feel like that the song is complete when they're done. And the reason why is because if they like the song and the song fails to resolve, then the song remains buried in that person's head. I don't know how many of you have read the book, This Is Your Brain on Music. If you're really into dense writing, read this book. It's a really great book, but it's really dense. But one of the things that they talk about is why exactly do songs get stuck in people's heads? And for the most part, they get stuck because they didn't finish hearing the song, and their brain is instinctively completing the song. And they've done a lot of scientific studies to show this. So knowing that you don't have the same radio environment of people switching out of songs or people leaving stores as much and hearing songs, when you have this controlled discovery of online, if you go and fail to resolve your chords at the end of the song, and you have at the same time an abrupt ending to that same song, then hopefully, if the song has done its job, the person will still try to sing the song once that song is finished. And then, if you've really done your job and there's a good hook, it becomes the itch that they can't scratch. And the good thing is, because we're in an internet and an on-demand environment, if it becomes the itch that they can't scratch, then they want to scratch it, which means they go and hit play to listen to it again, getting to that second listen, which I've told you is one of the most important things that you can do. So a lot of people have done this, and in actuality, again, going back to all of my really anal retentive studies of the Billboard charts, if you look at the top 50 selling downloads so far for 2010, only 10% of them offer a fade. 90% of them offer with either a final chord, usually not a resolving chord, or a very, very cold ending to stop the song abruptly. That is happening for a very specific reason, and that reason is to make sure that the listener feels like the song shouldn't have ended and I got to go back and hear the song again and not hear whatever song is going to come up next. So again, the beginning, the middle, and the end, just like, you know, I think at any other time, are the important elements to really be making sure you're engaging somebody. They're just important for different reasons now than they were in the past.
Certainly one of the big concerns that we've followed over the years, and you hear either a lament or you hear people adopting the mentality, is we're headed toward a singles world. Is this right? I mean, what do you see as the future of an album?
Well, I don't think we're heading towards a singles world. I think we're there.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, people want to consume music the way that they want to, and right now, the majority of people who are under 25 are consuming music through playlists, whether they're created playlists or whether they're randomized playlists by hitting shuffle on their iPod of all the songs that they've put in there. The idea of listening to an album, for the most part, is an antique ideal. And I think one of the difficult things right now is that because there is still so much parts of the music record company economy that are based off of albums, physical sales, that they have a hard time getting rid of it. To me, I think everybody should gladly get rid of it. I mean, as an artist, you know, what would you rather do? Spend, 3 painstaking months trying to construct the right 12 songs, only to find that they're not quite exactly what you want to be? Or, record 2 to 4 songs at a time and experiment and say, all right, let's try this style. And then 2 months later, do another 3 or 4 songs and say, let's try this style. I think, for all of the producers in the room, I think you'll be very happy to hear that I am strongly advocating to the labels that you've got to release and record more songs more often. It is key right now to this economy because if you have, I'll give you an example. Right now, the majority of sales on iTunes come from 2 places. Place number 1 is the chart, and place number 2 is the new release section. I mean, if you think about yourself and think about your own experiences with iTunes, think about how many times you're actually buying something by searching through it. You're doing it sometimes, but people are checking out the new release wall. Similarly, Walmart, all they really care about right now is new releases. They don't really care about catalog anymore. So the time that you have to sell is doing the new release window. Now, do you want to do like, using a Nashville example, do you want to do like Kelly Pickler, who's going to release 1 album every 2 years and then be on that new release wall once every 2 years? Or do you want to be like Blake Shelton, who has gone to the 6-pack idea, who in this course of this year is going to have 1 6-pack in February, another 6-pack in August, and a greatest hits record in November? 3 times he'll be on that new release wall in 1 year. Guess who's ultimately going to end up selling more? Because they're going to have that natural promotion. It's the more times that you can actually get up on that new release wall, so to speak, the better off you're going to be. So one of the things that's amazing to me is seeing artists so stuck to the album format, which I'm, by the way, as a music fan, I still love and appreciate for the right artists. If you tell me that Radiohead is going to come out and make singles every month, I'd say, what the hell? I mean, they're losing their edge. But if you're going to go and tell me that Jay-Z is going to hold back music because he's going to wait for 14-song album a year and a half from now with all 14 songs made by 14 different producers, I'm going to be like, you're really telling me that's a cohesive album? It's not. It's 14 singles. Why wait? There's no reason for it. So, I think it's amazing to me that more artists don't take advantage of this and actually releasing songs more 1, 2, 3 songs at a time, especially when you're in the beginning stages. The best thing that you can do is actually release, be feeding your fans more often. I'll give you an example as well, and really interesting. I don't know if does anybody know the artist Pretty Lights? Okay, we got like a couple of people.
It's the same 5 people.
It's not quite. Almost.
All right.
Pretty Lights is actually one guy who's an electronic music artist out of Colorado. And Pretty Lights, while you can buy his music, Pretty Lights has decided to give away all of his music on his website. Every single one. You can go to his website, download every album, everything that he's ever done for free. This year what he's done is he's released, rather than releasing an album, he's doing exactly what we're talking about. He is releasing 3 EPs. About a week ago, he surpassed 1 million free album downloads. A month ago, he sold out Red Rocks. This guy is making plenty of money giving away his music. And part of the reason why he's doing that is because he's engaging people. If you want to get the album for free, guess what? You got to go give up your email address so he can tell you about those tour dates, right? And that's okay. And a lot of people like that. They like that fan engagement. But he's been able to actually make a business, and there are a lot of other people that are doing this that are able to, just carve out the music business in a different way. But without releasing more songs more often, he probably would not be able to have generated the momentum to where he has gotten to today.
We face much, at Mix Magazine, we face much the same dilemma in publishing, where we wait for a monthly issue. And we used to break news on a product announcement. I mean, I've been there long enough to know that if you wanted to launch a product, you did it in a monthly format, and you waited and you planned that issue. A lot of pressure now. As soon as you get a story, it goes out. As soon as you get it, a hit becomes as important as a subscriber.
Right.
In a way, and much greater volume. Similar in other industries? Are you finding anything similar? I mean, in television? Because I have a daughter that goes to college, doesn't own a TV, and watches a lot more TV than I do.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely in television and movies, and certainly in magazines. I mean, Hollywood Reporter this week just announced that they're moving from a daily publication to a weekly publication with daily online updates.
Daily online updates.
And it's definitely changed that philosophy. And I think, as I'm sure you've probably seen, it's like, well, okay, I can, I'll do daily things to keep people excited about my brand here, and then I'm going to do something bigger and more impressive impressive that's not time sensitive on the physical side of things.
And you mentioned pretty lights out in Colorado. Would you advocate for an artist, a producer, an engineer, like constant updates on your website as well, and constant updates on marketing yourself all the time?
Absolutely.
Hit.
I mean, again, you're going to that competition right now. If you're not, you know, I like to talk about this story as I was writing this book, I discovered completely randomly a band from New Zealand called Op Shop. And I just listened to the music, fell in love with the songs, and you know, there's a whole other scenario about the fact that I had to steal it because because of the way iTunes works, I couldn't buy it unless I wanted to spend $50 on an import and wait 3 weeks, which I was not about to do. And I could go on about that, but the bigger important thing is that because I had to not only steal it from an illegal site and not get it for free from their site, I have no idea what they've done since then. And I'm not spending the time to go follow them. And most people are not doing the same thing. And in the band discovery process, I mean, for crying out loud, there's a band that I personally like called Barren Heaven. They played here in Nashville a week ago, and I didn't find out until 30 minutes before the show, and I couldn't get to the show. And as a band I really like. The reality is that as much as there are a lot of tools that help you engage you with your fans, and get you into mailing lists and alerts and things like that, a lot of people don't use them. And so what you have to do is you have to keep giving people a reason to talk about you, keep giving those Uber fans a real reason to talk about you, whether it's new songs or whether it's news updates or whether it's even demos, song ideas. It doesn't really matter. Just whatever works for you as an artist to keep them engaged. So then hopefully they've engaged often enough that they talk about you often enough that they then sign up for the email, so then that way this band, I would have known that they were playing in town, as an example, and then keep that fan engaged. Because, you know, now I look at country radio. I had this conversation with an artist a year ago where they did a free iTunes download in June. They released a video in September and talked to me about their grandiose plans about how they were going to work their way up the country chart, and it took a long time, and they were planning to get their song top 10 in April of the following year and then release the second single. And I said, you're absolutely insane. They said, why is that? I said, because what happened to those people in June who got the iTunes free download of the week? They said, oh, well, you know, we're just seeding the market and starting. I said, yeah, but presuming that they listened to the song and liked that song, you're not giving them a new song for 10 months? Do you really think that they're still around as a fan? Come on, get over it. They're not. And it's the same thing. The only reason why I can talk to you about this band Op Shop is because I use it as an example. If I didn't have this as an example, that band is long forgotten in my book, and it's a file that is collecting dust in my hard drive somewhere.
Well, it's interesting. It really became clear to me when I read, I can't even remember where I read it at this point, that it's not as important that you open your own Twitter account. It's important that people tweet about you. Yes. And certainly when you talk discovery, Facebook's changed the game. I mean, all types of formats. I mean, media, the news, your nightly news is now adjusting their schedule so that they can be delivered by your peers. Your peers have become increasingly important in the discovery process, correct?
Sure.
Anything that they should, I mean...
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you know, I think, you know, you have so many people talking now about social networking, and it's you know, going back to that, you know, I like to use this a lot about the CeeLo song versus the Bed Intruder song. The reality is that both of those songs are equally large viral hits. But to my group of friends, the CeeLo song is a massive hit, and they have no idea that the Bed Intruder song exists. I got 50 people who passed me the CeeLo song and 1 who passed me the Bed Intruder song. I like to, you know, in terms of the, you know, kind of red state, blue state environment, I kind of like it as that basically, like, my group of friends think the CeeLo song is like a White Stripes song and the Bed Intruder song is like Nickelback. You know, it's hitting middle America and people just don't realize it. And, but they're both equally as successful. And a lot of that just has to do with people's social networks. And you know, it's a very interesting time because there could be an act that is not that big, but within a circle of friends, they seem like that act is the biggest act ever. And it's kind of a double-edged sword. The positive side of it is there's a real business that can be had there, and you can actually make businesses out of small groups of friends. That's more important than ever before. The double-edged sword side is that you begin to think you're as big as Madonna when you're only reaching 20,000 people. That's when you start having some problems. But I think overall, if you spend your time focusing, there's a lot of people who talk about the 1,000 fans theory. I mean, if you think about this, if you can get 1,000 fans to spend $100 on your artist in a given year, you can actually survive. And there's no reason why that can't be done, and there are artists that are doing this on a regular basis right now. So, you know, the social network stuff is extraordinarily important. There's actually a whole chapter I talk about why you need to make a song viral. CeeLo could have, you know, called the song Bless Your Heart and nobody would be talking about it, but he calls it Fuck You and everybody has to talk about it. It becomes viral by the nature of what the song is.
We have our first question over here.
Very intriguing data. One question I had was, so when you say introduction, can you define that for us? I mean,
sure.
Obviously, you know, as arrangers, we have a concept of what that is, but I'd like to know what your definition of introduction is. And then in terms of the data that you've reported in this book, do you see labels and bands actually following some of these principles? One thing that I just thought of as you were presenting was Rush put out these 2 Tunes Caravan, which they recorded here in Nashville, and now they're touring the world based on 2 tunes.
Yeah, I think, you know, just to answer the second question first really quickly, you know, I know directly that at least half of the major record labels are thinking about the philosophies that I've used in my book regularly in their A&R meetings. And I've also heard that this is not only happening in the U.S., but I've got confirmation that this is happening in England, France, and Germany as well. And it's definitely been shaping their processes, and the more that they've actually seen it work for them, the more that it's reinforced them actually utilizing this in their A&R meetings. Going back to your first question about how I define an intro, basically I define the intro the way that radio stations define an intro, which is the length of the instrumental before vocals come in. And that does not, by the way, mean that you can't impress somebody with an instrumental. You can. I mean, the example I love to use is AC/DC. You put together an undeniable guitar riff, and that is as good and engaging as a vocal is going to be. But for the most part, people are just not, at this point, not really that creative and are not actually coming up with very engaging instrumental opens to songs. So people are utilizing vocals. And one of the reasons why as well is the interesting thing about vocals is even in this iPod, iBuds environment, people have this guilty conscience in them about interrupting somebody. And one of the things that happens is that when you get a vocal, people subconsciously don't want to leave that song, at the very least, until that person is done with that thought, which usually is the end of the verse. It's a guilty conscious thing that I've seen over and over and over again. It's amazing. But it doesn't matter that they're isolated and that nobody would be offended if they went and hit skip. But the reality is that a singer opens their mouth, and until you give them an opportunity to stop, they will just keep listening because it feels uncomfortable to stop somebody mid-sentence. And so that's why you actually see in some songs that not only does the vocals come in very, very quickly, but that there's a lot of front-loaded vocals very quickly in the front, because again, the more you drag somebody into the song, the more likely they're going to stay for the whole song. So if you actually keep them with a stream of conscious lyrics that barely breaks in the first 15 seconds, there's a higher likelihood that they're going to stay through the song. Now, I don't advocate that fully, but it's definitely an interesting phenomenon that I've seen in a couple of places.
That's why Eminem raps so fast, then.
I mean, that could very well be a reason to part of his success, for sure.
Our number one question man, by the way, he's going to get an award here at the end of the
I had 2 questions, actually, so I get double points for that. You mentioned, increasing the length of the song. Being a producer and songwriter, I always hear from publishers to keep it 3 to 3.5 minutes because of the obvious radio play. Any suggestions for doing that? Obviously, you could do 2 different versions of the song, but it'd be hard to make it creative because you don't want a version where you cut out a bridge or something of that nature. And then the other question was, you mentioned if it's like a place like Pandora are going to switch to a pay per amount of the song that gets actually streamed.
That's my assumption. I don't know that for a fact.
But if they did that, even if your song is longer and people listen to it longer, are they still going to end up paying more? I mean, if they did something like that, do you think it would be where, like a lot of times, like certain plans for like whatever, you pay X amount for the first minute and then every other minute is a little bit less or something like that?
I think on the Pandora question, I don't think that it's necessarily going to change the relationship with the audience. It might change the relationship in the way they deliver advertising to you, so that they can pay for it, but I don't think it's necessarily going to change the relationship to the audience. And because there's so much music out there, the beauty of what they can do is everything is subtle. You know, again, there's, 5%, you can only listen to 5% of what comes out. So you look at that new release wall on any service, be it iTunes or RDO, which is a new streaming service, or Amazon, and there's stuff that's on the front page, and then it'll go and say that there's another 10 pages of new releases. Well, what stuff ends up on each page that's deeper and deeper gets less and less people viewing it. Same as Google search. So, how do you get on that front page? And it can be very subtle that the front page is going to be filled with the stuff that they know is more likely to be financially successful. Going back to the question about the longer song and the way that labels and publishers operate, I mean, I think you're right that there are still some labels who are not getting the message, and it's very difficult when you're trying to sell something to them because they are ultimately the buyer, even if the buyer is wrong. And I think the way to do that is that when you're sending it out digitally, you make sure that the digital version is the longer version, and you are very explicit that the radio version is something that should be secondary. Like, make sure, say, go ahead, make the radio edit, send it out to your radio stations, but when you go and put it up on YouTube, and when you go and put it up on iTunes, and when you go put it up everywhere, make sure that only the full version is available. You might want to go and, for that matter, again, to the multiple versions. There are people who are obsessed enough who still wonder what the difference is between a radio edit and an album version, and putting both versions up might actually be beneficial because, again, you get that multiple version and that second listen.
Hello.
Hey.
How you doing? This mic is too tall for me. My question is, in all the research that you've done about songs, intros, that kind of thing, what have you found out about songs that start with the chorus?
I mean, there's a lot of people that have utilized songs that start with the chorus, and a lot of people have had enormous success with it. But in talking with artists, actually not really artists, in talking with producers and labels who have followed a lot of what's in the book, I found that the need to put the chorus in the beginning is not quite as important as just the need to get the song vocally started quickly. Because there's equal examples of songs that start right in with the chorus at the 1 second mark, as there are with people like, one of the examples I like to use that's one of the near perfect definitions of one of the future hits is Kesha's TikTok. And that song doesn't start with the chorus. That song starts with the verse, but it's equally as engaging. I think the one important thing is the creative process is still extraordinarily valuable. Please, nobody mistake the idea that I am trying to squash the creative process. I'm really not. That has to come first. And in the creative process, it makes sense to put the chorus first, great. But if in the creative process it makes sense that it starts with a verse, or even, as I've heard some people do, start with a bridge, I think it's up to each individual song. And again, even on the lengthening of songs, for some songs it works beautifully. For some songs, if you try it and you go, this makes absolutely no sense, ditch it. Every song is going to feed into different elements.
Thanks.
Okay. All right. I've noticed on YouTube when people do covers of songs and they tag it, it'll pull up the iTunes and the Amazon link at the bottom. Does that work for just major label artists, or is it also for independent artists as long as you have stuff up on iTunes or Amazon?
It's supposed to work for all artists that are up on iTunes because of the fingerprinting technology, but that doesn't mean that it automatically does.
So how does it pick up, like when somebody's doing a cover of the song and it pulls up that
It's
link?
usually picked up by the tags and by people identifying it, and the system can at some point it becomes a no-brainer. If you find people that like song X are listening to cover of song X and they're sharing the same audience and it has the same title with the same tag, you can pretty much assume that that's what it is, and they can connect the two. But sometimes you do have to actually go to iTunes and manually do it. Certainly one of the other things that's advantageous. Another thing is that there's a myth that iTunes really doesn't pay any money. The reality is that they do, and when you reach a relatively low threshold now. I think it's in the hundreds of thousands of views collectively across all of your work on your particular channel, whether it's as an artist or as a producer or a label, it doesn't really matter. When you reach a couple 100,000 views, you can actually go to iTunes and say, hey, or YouTube, excuse me, and say, hey, I'm actually pulling a substantial audience. I've got copyrighted music works. Can I come and share in the advertising revenue? And they'll set you up on a program that'll do it, and that will also, by the way, help get your stuff tagged into to other songs as well.
Thank you.
All right, I was, as a songwriter myself, I've been trying to look for effective marketing strategies, and I've seen that music videos, a lot of people say that those are really effective and that the viewers usually only pay attention to the song for the first few seconds and then they become fully enveloped in the video. Is that something that you would go about doing, or what is your take on that?
I would certainly advocate music videos wherever possible. I kind of like to describe the process as kind of this inverted pyramid, where the process for us as creative types in engaging in music is usually far different than the audience. For us, in terms of why do we want to work with certain artists, well, I think we go and we first say, is this person talented? We go and presume that say, okay, yes, they're talented. Then we go and say, all right, well, does this person actually have a vibe and style that will probably be marketable? Okay, yes, they do. And then you go and say, all right, now let's go and write the song that's going to make you marketable. From the audience perspective, they come in exactly the opposite fashion. The first thing they go is they hear the song and they decide if they like the song. Then, once they decide they like the song, then they go and say, well, actually, does this person fit my lifestyle? Are we, do we wear similar clothes? Would we hang out at the same places? Figure out if it fits them. Once they establish that image, then they go and actually start looking to see if that person actually has talent or not. It sucks, but it's true. So to that end, if you want to actually get to somebody respect you as an artist and talent, they got to go through the image thing first. And videos are one of the easiest ways that most people utilize in order to be able to get a vibe of what that artist's image is all about. And again, also similarly in terms of when you're asking about marketing, you want to get to those multiple listens. So it does make sense to release the song first, and then 2, 3, 4 weeks later release the video, because then if somebody said that they liked the song but only listened to it that one time, and then 3 weeks later discover there's a video for it, then they're listening to the song a second time. So they can actually engage in that multiple listens by having the video, in essence, be that multiple listen.
We have another one here?
Actually, this is more of an observation. Driving down from Kansas City, I did hear 2 versions of Fuck You. In the metro market, they just kind of did the muck you, and then when you got into the southern Ozarks where it's very religious, it became Forget You.
Yes. He does have a version called Forget You.
And there's actually a reply. Some gal wrote, used the same song and everything, only she said, she approached it as, you're stalking me. I don't even know you. So it's really expanded, and there's multiple versions, and yeah, it is getting airplay.
Oh, and by the way, similarly on that same topic, again, this Bed Intruder song to me is fascinating, because this song didn't exist 6, 7 weeks ago. Did not exist. Wasn't, because the incident hadn't even happened. Okay? So nothing about the song existed 7 weeks ago, and 7 weeks later it charts on Billboard and sells 150,000 downloads. But more importantly, to the point of the last observation, is that song has already spawned at least a dozen covers that I know of, and probably far more that I don't know of. The reality is that go and say, hey, how exactly do I get, I have a whole chapter on my book about covers. How exactly do I get my artist discovered? Well, the first thing I would do when I hear Fuck You and know that it's going really viral is I'd run into the studio and make my own version of that song and be one of the first guys up there to have a cover. Because then if somebody goes and says, hey, you did a unique arrangement of this song and it's kind of cool, then they might go and say, what else have you done? And then go to your other original music. Covers are a great way to introduce yourself, and that's why you get so many people. Justin Bieber was discovered because he was singing covers on YouTube. You know, and that's and not just because the labels discovered him that way, fans discovered him that way. So, you know, having cover versions in your arsenal and being able to respond to songs as they become quick viral hits, to be the first one in, these are all crucial things that you can help in the process of success.
We have two people standing. We're going to take these very quickly. We're running out of time right now, so if you want to start it off, sir.
I admire your that you're an energetic speaker when at least I can hear a cricket full-time over here. But that's not my question. Can you just explain again why it was the length of the introduction made Mariah Carey get into rotation more? I didn't understand that.
Well, it basically was a combination of events with the rise of scheduling software at radio stations, selecting songs rather than a human doing it, consolidations of radio stations, and the need for through that consolidation process to sell ad time while the DJs talked. And the DJs talk over intros of the song. So if they had a 40-second intro to talk over versus a 15-second intro, the 15-second intro is enough for them to say, hey, and this artist is playing at the local club, here's blah. But Mariah Carey, they can go and say, hey, we're going to be down at the car dealer this week. So that's where that comes from.
Last question.
Yes. Hi, Jay. My name is Leah Marie, and I'm a pop artist. And the Bed Intruder song is spreading through the college campuses like wildfire. I mean, everybody knows who Antoine Dotson is, and everybody's singing, hide your kids, hide your wife.
Yeah.
So you're absolutely right.
And Antoine, by the way, was also smart and set up his own website, which has hide your kids, hide your wife T-shirts and all that kind of stuff. So he's definitely making the most out of his 15 minutes.
Yeah,
Was there a question as well, or?
No, I just wanted to comment on
Okay.
that.
Well, listen,
Thank you.
I thank you. My goodness.
Thank you very much.
And certainly a fresh perspective, and I really appreciate you coming out, Jay, on short notice and sharing your thoughts with us. His book is called Future Hit DNA. It's available a lot of places, and
Yep.
feel free to...
I've got a couple of copies here if anybody would like to buy some now, but it's also on Amazon, and it's on my website, futurehitdna.com. You can follow me on Twitter, futurehitdna. And if you go to futurehitdna.com and you still want to kind of test it out, you can download a free chapter of the book on the website, so you can read the chapter, see if it fits your style, and then decide before you purchase.
Wow, fantastic.
All right, thank you.